a daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Good morning, everybody. Troy's dreaming big like LeBron. Troy played basketball yesterday, and Troy can't feel his legs this morning.
Wow.
So, Troy's hip flexor is giving him trouble, as they say.
How'd you do against the youngins?
Well, this was not against the youngins. This is my favorite crew because they're all 40.
Okay.
And listen, you put me with a bunch of 40-year-olds, I'm in my prime then. I'm good. I'm a problem, as they say. But,
how are the post moves?
Many people have said, Dan, that my post moves are incredible. They look at me and they say they've never seen post moves like that.
I hear
so. Second coming of Hakeem.
I do have a dream shake. Make no mistake about that. I do have a dream shake. So anyway, hope you guys are doing well today on this beautiful Tuesday morning. We were just talking about how we've got two people on location. We've got beautiful UK Wildcat territory and Matt in Lexington. And then Dan, is this more Clemson area or more of a South Carolina?
This is where your big argument comes in on the color orange. Where's my, we have I've got, the University of Tennessee orange, which if you're in Knoxville is the best
right orange.
Yeah. But now I'm closer to Clemson in Greenville, South Carolina, and they say their orange is a little bit better. So I'm in the orange of Clemson and wet and rainy, but beautiful Greenville, South Carolina today.
Yeah. That orange, I mean, listen, I'll say this about South Carolina. We don't want to make anyone mad, any one state mad. But if you like that type of orange, that clearly shows that you married your cousin.
Wow. Man,
shout out South Carolina.
He's drawing he's drawing the shot across the bow. This is
goodness. That's right. No, that's what I always say about Alabama football.
I better get north of the Mason-Dixon line here.
You better.
I'm sure Alabama loves that classic crimson and white. If you can't see color because of the inbreeding.
Oh my!
That's the way. Anyway, so
oh my goodness.
Troy, let me get in the car and get out of here. They're going to be banging on the door.
You got 15-minute window.
I got the shirt on and everything. Come on.
I know. I love it. Well, on that note, listen. Today's a special day because we are up 76 points, and we've been up 76 points more or less for a 24-hour futures session.
That's right.
That happened Sunday night, I think. Sunday night we kind of rocked up 40, and then it just was game on from there. And I mean, how would your positions? Did you have any weekend? How's this going to help you guys this morning? Being up 3%.
Nothing.
Clean. I mean, I can have a little remorse that a couple people put on they were looking for a reverse iron condor at the end of the day on Friday for Tuesday, just thinking that the tariffs and that type of thing. And I didn't do it. And that would have been an immediate success, right, Matt, at the end of today with the big move up. But the one thing that's interesting, it's just like these, one thing that I've noticed with the tariffs, I mean, if you take last week, for instance, you had Monday and Friday were both 60-point gaps, overnight or gaps that opened up almost 60 points. And those things can really, depending on where you are in the graph, right? Depending on where you are in the graph at that point, they can sting. a positive theta range bound type trade. And I think you just, but I think it will continue this type of Trump thing. The thing again, I'm amazed at that the market is still not. They've seen this playbook before, right? I'm going to kick your, I'm going to beat you up, but then 5 minutes later, well, I'll give you it for 3 more weeks. I'm going to postpone beating you up or whatever it is. But we're seeing this on a weekly basis, and the market still takes the bait. When will the market, Matt and Troy, say, I've seen this 4 days ago? We're not going to every time. I mean, it's great for volatility in the market, but what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, we're at what 6-7 weeks of this, and it still. I mean, we're not at 100-point candles, but we're still at what, a 20 on the VIX and 70-80 overnight move. Yeah, I mean that's.
I mean, candles have come down, except for the only big candle last week was Wednesday, was about 108 between the high and the low. So candles have come down a bit.
But the pre-market, like you said, the pre-market still has some big movers.
The gaps. Yeah, it's like it's like you're not as comfortable. Have you noticed anything, Matt, like in your trading, or Troy, that that the overnight risks have become a little more treacherous, or do you? It's been going on 7 weeks, so I mean,
Go ahead, Troy.
I mean, that's a good question. To me, the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle is just, I don't know. This again, I'm not financial advice, not even financial, really good advice. I feel like this whole thing's just toppy.
I agree.
Like and so it doesn't take much to like make it go down.
I think the VIX kind of still 20 VIX would still indicate that. Yeah, Troy.
That it's toppy.
I mean, just that there's the potential, not that it's toppy, but there's the potential of toppy.
Yeah, I mean, toppy's in the eye of the beholder, and toppy is as toppy does, as they say. But I feel like it's a classic. I feel like there's just a lot of stuff going on. There always is. There's just a lot of stuff going on in the market where it's like tariff. I honestly, depending on how the yield stuff turns out, we could be way down by Friday. I mean, that's just the way. I feel like the tariff stuff's just not it. To Dan, your original point, it is crazy to me that we'd just go up 1% and down 1%.
But you're right. I mean, my first thought today was, how do you get something with a little bit short delta? I mean, you're thinking immediately like you're not. We get up to 5,900 or whatever in the SPX, but it's not like you're. I just think it could be back and forth, which is good for range bound. But the only negative to me is it's a bit choppy, because if unless you can hang in there, right? But I think this is a rougher environment if you're adjusting, right? Because
it's bigger waves. I mean, yeah, if you're deep sea fishing, I mean, this is tough. This is tough. This is choppy water, and just because again, the condor, a 20 VIX, you're not getting paid that much,
right?
For what is 70-point candle days, 50-point.
That's right.
If VIX is 30, VIX is 40. Well, there's plenty of people who are selling premium all day who are killing it, because you can sell something. I mean, man, when we were at VIX 60, I had something that was like 600 points down for like a $2 spread, like 0 day. It was ridiculous. And so you're not getting that now. And because of that, you definitely can get whipsawed if you're not careful.
Yeah. Which
brings us to a great point, because this is premium selling week for our small account challenge. So just to review, we've tried to put together these trades that are for people who maybe are newer to options, who don't have, 25K in the account or whatever, or they're just starting small. this is for people who, to be honest, have a lot of money and want to try to do small account size stuff and see what can happen. And we have looked at long gamma trades. We have looked at calendar spreads. And this week, we're going to look at selling premium. A couple caveats as we start this week. Number one, we say this every week, but I really, really mean it. These are not meant to trade. The tests that we're showing are not set it and forget it's that you can just take down and do yourself. These are ideas. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, and there's plenty of places people go that tell you to take trades. We're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
We're saying these are backtest ideas. Go make your own backtest ideas from these backtest ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So Option Omega is not a trade alert service. And so we do not want you to just blindly do these things. There's a benefit if you can find mentors like that. I know one on camera right now that's been doing this for years that you can reach out to him, Sheridan Risk Management. But we are not, Option Omega is not that. We are not a trade alert service. We are trade idea generator. That's what backtesting is. And so,
but Troy, that's what it should be. I mean, it should be, even in what mentoring or whatever, you give somebody maybe some structure, what you're giving here, and this is what you want a trade to look like. Now take it, practice it, think about it, and then make it your own. But at least what you've tried to do, I think, with the back testing is give them a template of what sanity looks like. You're going to have some rails on there. It's going to make sense. You're not curve fitting it. This is something realistic. It's a nice template to make a good meal. Now the other 2%, use your brain cell, work on it a little bit. So it's really, wouldn't you agree? It's not for the person who's like, feed me, feed me, feed me. This is for someone who, hey, you're bringing them a pretty good template, right? It's like when you leave the hospital, they give you, okay, here's your 4 food groups. Take 2 of those. You have this basic template, but you need to make the decisions on it. And I think, but that's what you want. I mean, you want people to be independent craftsmen. That's what you are at OO. That's what you are in the Discord. And you're not looking, because if a person says, feed me, you know it's going to end up bad, because they're going to blindly follow somebody who probably doesn't have really good risk management. And the fact that you have all these rails, I mean, that's what makes it, to me, is that, so you're even in these back tests this week, you're giving them some decent rails to start with and practice. Anyways.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's right. And I think that's the question. It's like, we could teach you the sky hook, but you might not be a sky hook guy. You might be a baby hook, as Shaq had a little baby hook. Anyway, there's different ways to do it. There's different hooks. And so let me show this trade. And last thing I'm going to say about this before I show it to you, because these are idea generators, this will be a good test to see if you guys are paying attention to what we're saying with, like, don't just blindly do this.
Yeah.
Like this trade I'm about to show you is at 10:25 a.m. And you might run it yourself, and you say at 10:20 it falls apart, or at 10:30 it falls apart. Well, by their own metrics, that means it's not really a great trade. Very well possibly could be. And that's why we say, I'm not telling you this is a great trade. Straight up, I'm just telling you this is an idea. So you won't surprise us if you run this a bunch and find out it doesn't work. That's kind of the beauty of testing, if that makes sense. So Anyway, all right. With that being said, all those caveats in place. Small account challenge, day 1. Happy Memorial Day. Just sell a straddle. Now you might think to yourself, this isn't a straddle. This is a iron fly, and it is an iron fly. But this point out, this is a very, very wide iron fly.
Yes.
Because what you're doing in SPY is you're saying SPX dailies, we're going to sell at 10:25 a.m. We're going to sell the 50 delta, call and put.
In SPY.
In SPY. And we're going to buy 10 points out, down, 10 points up. We're going to do this with one contract. And I'll talk more about that again in a second, because small account challenge, there's definitely some things we need to talk about with this stuff, as I've seen people go from there. So anyway, and VIX overnight up. So a move up of anything, 0.2 basically. And we exit the trade. Here's the only exit point. We exit the trade at 352. Okay. This is not curve fitted. You might think, oh, if I run this at 355, it's a lot better. I run this at 359, it's a lot better. I run this at 348, it's a lot better. Very well could be. Very well could be. This is an idea generator. I'm not giving you a trade to trade. I'm giving you something to think about. So with that being said, last point, entry slippage, exit slippage of 3 cents. I think that's excessive, but okay, great. I hope you get a better fill. Like, I'm just showing it. I'm just showing it works. 75 cents open and 75 cents closing. That's going to be
high too.
Brokerage dependent. Yeah. So guys, rather than the test, because the test is an idea, and I'm caveating, I'm not going to say this every day. So if you're like, God, he's going hard in the paint this morning with all this stuff, I'm not going to say this every day. I'm just trying to give you a upfront about it. With the idea of that this is an idea. With the idea that this is an idea, as Shakespeare said. What do you think of this concept of selling the straddle?
Well, I think that the thought process here, that a couple big things at a high level. Number one, the rail, the safety, the risk management is that this is an idea for the small account challenge. So it's contract capped. So your risk is the width of the spread minus the credit that you received. And that's the risk. And your because you're exiting at a certain time rather than taking a stop loss, then this will, if somebody actually did a concept like this live, it would teach them to ride it out. Question from the chat of why is this a fixed contract? And that is a great question. And the answer is this is by design, because this is part of the SAC, the small account challenge. So it's got a tag at the top, small account challenge. So this would be somebody who is only planning on doing one of these because they have a small account. So that is by design in this series of tests, which we did this week and last week on the OO show. So that is my kind of high level, quick overview of a few takeaways from just looking at it at a quick glance.
Yeah, a couple quick points. Obviously, I mean, selling a straddle is your purest form of premium selling. You're picking the two options with the most extrinsic value and you're nailing them. And then you're buying something against it. So I like it. As Troy said, you can call it an iron butterfly. Is it in the iron condor family? It is, right? I know on Thinkorswim, you have to enter iron condor to do this trade. Couple quick things in the idea generation too. When you're working on this during the week in SPY, a couple areas where I would consider at least playing around, which is the nice thing. You got a wonderful template here that Troy put together, but I might look, when you look at what's the expected move in SPY for, this is a 0 day. What's the expected move in SPY for the day? 10 wide is great. Could be a little wide. 10 wide would be 100 points in SPX. And usually, I don't know what the expected move today is, Troy, is at 40 points or something like that. So this would give you over 2 standard deviation. But especially for a small account, I might just see what kind of results you get. What does the data show if you brought it 7 wide or 6 wide, and see what goes. The other thing that I would, as you're working on trying to make this back test better this week, I like the 10:25 a.m. coming in. It lets the market settle a bit. But the other thing, flexibility, can you, no, I don't know what you can do in the back testing as far as, what if at 10:25 we're at the low of the day, or if we're at the high of the day? Can you maybe tweak it a little bit? Another area to work on. And then finally, what about if you're exiting? Another idea to play with. Well, Troy, what time are you exiting on this one?
3:52 in the afternoon.
Okay, 3:52.
So just after MOC, before the end of the
okay day. And just playing with it. Do you have any, what if you exited? Again, it could change things dramatically. What if you,
do we lose them?
uh
Oh, you're frozen.
yeah, things like that, different.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about the exit for just a minute, because since this is a small account challenge, there's been actually a really healthy amount of discussion on the Discord, and we've shown tests that exit at earlier in the day. I think we had last week. I think one of the last ones we showed exited at 2:30. Brokers are different in how they deal with assignment risk
Right.
on assignable securities. So because this is SPY, it can be, if you are short at the end of the day in the money, a couple of things. Number one, certainly can play around with different tickers, and in the backtest you could play around with SPX. That's obviously a little bit, it's around 10 times the value of SPY, so that's why we chose SPY for the small account challenge. There is the option of doing XSP, which is close to the same size of SPY. It's 1/10 the size of SPX. XSP has massively different liquidity than SPY, and so anybody who's looking at it will want to note the liquidity differences. But a lot of, and again, we have a world-class backtester, so you guys can play around with this, but some of these backtests actually do better holding them to expiry, especially if it's a ride or die that doesn't have a stop loss and you're not worried about stop loss slippage. Then it might make sense to backtest holding it to expiry and look at a different ticker. So if you were going to do this one in XSP live, you could possibly explore some backtests that didn't have a exit at all. Again, that is a different thing. And somebody who's new at this, there are ups and downs. There are roller coasters. When you're looking at a backtest and you see a green result and a high MAR and a high CAGR, a lot of new folks focus on that and they don't look at the high drawdown. So while we've been talking here, Troy has been responding to the chat and running various iterations of sizing and allocation on this. So he's done all different sorts of sizing. So you can see this one currently on the screen has a 90% drawdown, a 90% drawdown. That is a very high drawdown. And somebody who's just looking at this will say, yeah, but you took your money from 5K in the back test to nearly 150K. Again, with a 90% drawdown. So there are people who can look at it and say, that's within the positive expectancy range. My experience, that is not most people who want to trade through a 90% drawdown. So Troy has been doing that to show the different variations on allocation. When you do 25% allocation, your CAGR in this backtest was over 140. Your drawdown was 33. So a much more probably reasonable drawdown, although 33% drawdown, a lot of people will have a tough time hanging through 33%. So that's the whole point of this. There are endless ways to configure this backtest and set it up and play with the allocation. Ultimately, as Troy said, this is an idea generator. So we gave the tool to the users, and then they do what makes sense for them.
I think, yes. And I think a couple of different things. There's two different paths with the small account challenge. So one, and this is the realistic path in my mind, is to say, if someone has $5,000, it's true from a backtesting standpoint that you see a lot more if you take away that contract cap. And you should. We talked about this last week. You should definitely test without the contract cap. Realistically, I would highly encourage someone with $5,000 or less in their account to trade for years with one contract and Spire Q before upping your size.
That's right.
Because if that's your money, that's your money. And you want it to be, you have to be very protective of your money. That's phase one. Phase two is say what we did a couple weeks ago, and you have maybe more than that, but you like the idea of small allocation and compounding through small allocation. And you say, I'm going to put $5,000 in an account, and I don't care if I lose all of it. It's a blip on my radar. I want to set it and forget it truly. Well, then you can then maybe look at, something where you say, I'm gonna go a little bit harder in the paint. Again, I'm not advocating a 50% portfolio. That's up to you guys. You're financial advisors and all that stuff. As I'm sure you're consulting with your financial advisor before every trade. And
I'm sure that he doesn't understand options at all.
That's right. And I'm sure he's saying, why don't you just have it in my mutual fund?
That's right.
Anyway, but anyway, that's the two paths. So if there's a confusion about that, I get it. I'm saying like, well, why are you just capping it? I'm capping it because realistically, if you have a $5,000 account, just realistically, just speaking truth. I know I'm blowing some people's world up here with this and being a downer, Debbie Downer. If you have $5,000 account in 3 years, realistically, you probably are not going to be disengaged emotionally enough to be trading 1,040 QQQ or spies, a day, 800 spies a day. But just realistically, what I can say is that you might have the confidence 3 years later to be trading a spread like this every day and not even looking at it, and it doesn't bother you if you lose. That is a great goal to work on. If you have a lot of money, if you've been successful in options, if you know what you're doing, by all means, find strategies that, I think it's a great mix to have both. Have strategies that are a little bit more ride or dies. And have an account. Great question, Kyle ADV. So one of the things in the small account challenge that is a challenge is PDT. And if you'll notice, this is a 0-day trade, right? So as Matt said, there's a couple things you could do. You could do XSP, and maybe we can look at this. Maybe tomorrow I'll do this. I'll show you the SPX version of this, where you set it and forget it. And then maybe you practice on XSP, which is 1/10 the size of SPX. And XSP is cash settled, so European style expiration. So there's no PDT if you don't take it off. Two, some of the other trades we're going to be looking at this week are going to be not 0-day. Like that is I want to acknowledge that is a challenge. So it'd be disingenuous for us just to always be like, hey, small account challenge, just tranche trade these 50 trades a day. Well, you can't do that with pattern day trading. So I'm showing this, and the reality is, you're not going to put this on every day. There'll be days where there's some in a row, but probably on average, maybe 1 to 2 a week. So that is part of the challenge of it too. So we'll look at more stuff like that, but that is a reality with this. Guys, any closing thoughts about this before we get even crazier tomorrow and the next day and things like that?
No, this is a great start, Troy. I'm ready to get a little
listen,
crazier,
I'll say this, and I'm sure Dan's seen this before too, with premium selling, condors, straddles, butterflies, all this stuff. the probabilities, you see a 66.5 win rate and people go a little crazy. And so if this sounds like we've been mean to you this morning, we're not trying to be mean. Mommy and daddy care. And that's why we yell. So we want to make sure that people know, there's with premium selling, you're trading probability for a greater loss rate. Just that's the base level. The higher your probability in a trade, the higher your risk in a trade from a loss rate. That's straightforward.
And get rails, and that's the key here. The wonderful thing with the options Omega is you have plenty of a plethora, whatever that word means, of rails, that risk management that you can put in there to control that max drawdown. Doesn't have to be your worst enemy. If you actually, I don't know how many different rails you have capable in the tool, more than you can figure. But I think that's really, that should give people confidence going forward that you have these things that can help you, because that's it, right? I love selling at the money stuff. I love selling out of the money stuff. Like the out of the money stuff would be your double calendar and your iron condor. The at the money stuff would be calendars and your butterflies. And they work great. It's just, as long as your focus needs to be 24/7 risk management, and risk management means rails. And as long as you take your time, don't waste these templates. Take these templates that we do on a daily basis, play with them with the different rails, and that'll start giving you more confidence that you can see that the drawdowns don't have to be, what's going to happen? You can run the data. I just wanted to find some way to bring up Moneyball at least one more.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And throwing plethora out is good as well. So listen, may the SPX be unchanged from Friday's close by 4 p.m. today.
Why not? Why not?
That's my
goal. Gosh.
That's my
goal. That
goal.
would be a big opportunity. We're up 80, right?
It's going to be tough.
81.
Yeah.
82.
Yeah. It's not financial advice, but buy puts. Anyway. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.